Good evening. Welcome back to another night of Kickback. Tonight's guest is somebody you don't want to mess around with. He used to be the former lightweight bare-knuckle knockdown champion in the Kyokushinkai tournaments. He has spent 15 years in the martial arts between Kodokan Judo and Kyokushinkai Karate, which are his foundations. He is now the head of the umbrella organization, which is the Iron Warrior Federation. He has the videotape series that he has out now, about 13 or 14 I think he's working on now. And he has a bunch of manuals as well as books which he is working on. I'd like to introduce our next guest, Marco Lala. Marco?
Scott.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure.
No, anytime, anytime. You're definitely a tribute to the martial arts and all the teachings and the accomplishments that you've had between the videos and the fighting and the books and your philosophies alone. It's great. What got you into all this? What started you out in the martial arts?
Well, when I was younger, I was pretty athletic. I started with baseball, which is basically a team sport. But with my friends, we used to have a lot of games. We like survive, like who can jump the farthest, broad jumping, and diving over hedges, and who can run the fastest. Yeah. And I watched a martial arts demonstration on TV. And immediately it caught my eye because I thought that this person had some kind of superhuman skills or something that the average person couldn't do. And me being that type of individual, very athletic, I thought that the martial arts might be a perfect vehicle or means to achieve these, the skill level.
So
that's
excited you saw that superhuman thing, and guys doing flying kicks and breaking boards.
I thought it was incredible. Actually, it reminded me of I used to be into comic books, and it reminded me of superheroes, and you see those guys with super builds and stuff.
Oh yeah, and your Richard Dragon series,
exactly,
comic books.
And the Incredible Hulk actually was a strong influence because I tried to tie in the weight training, and I actually when I started getting into the martial arts and learning about Bruce Lee and watching the movies, Chuck Norris, and about I think it was the mid-70s. Incredible Hulk came out with Lou Ferrigno, so I mean that tied in with the martial arts, which came in a few years later. I kind of wanted to almost be one or the other, and then I realized that they work perfectly together.
Which is what you pretty much preach now, bringing the physical conditioning with the martial arts, which was great that you happened to see that as a child and bring that out.
It's essential. In my travels, so to speak, I've noticed that it doesn't really matter how many techniques you know, but the physical level that the person has achieved, can make one or two techniques work very well.
How well you perform them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what was it like walking in the dojo for the first day as a kid after seeing all this and then all of a sudden saying, well, this is reality?
Well, it was a little intimidating at first. My first instructor, Sensei Hiyoki, who's now out in Arizona.
Right, who I know.
He's an amazing individual.
Great man.
His devotion to the martial arts is virtually incomparable today. Actually, when I met him, he was living in the school. He came from Japan, and he lived in the dojo, I think, for somewhere like around 8 years.
Something he
literally slept on the mat. So, it was that type of influence, that really affected my martial arts training. I looked at it from a point of view where if you don't do it with this type of level, you're not really doing it the right way.
Exactly.
That's kind of like, the impression that I got from him. And then, seeing some of the demonstrations, I watched him fight full contact. I've seen him like break baseball bats with his shins and cinder blocks with the head. So, I was about 14 at the time, and I'm saying, you can imagine,
can I do this? Can I
a 14-year-old, being exposed to, such a thing. It was like my dream coming true as far as, this guy is a superhero.
Yeah, it becomes your idol in a way because it's like, I want to be like that.
And over the years, he actually became more of a father to me, and he was very close, to me, guided me in all other directions.
Yeah, they say they're senseis, which is the same with mine. I felt the same thing. They become that father figure. They not that they're replacing your father, but they give that addition of the discipline, the confidence, and not that you weren't getting that from your father, but you're right, they actually guide you through your life.
And Scott, on top of that, even though he was a teacher, he had his own school, the respect that he had for his own instructor, which is Shihan Shigeru Oyama, who I also train under, it was very interesting to see that here is my teacher, but he's still talking about his instructor, and we would train together under him, our master. So it was very interesting to see the hierarchy there, the levels of training. My current instructor, Sensei Hoishi, who trains him who teaches him in Manhattan, my judo instructor, just visited Japan recently, and he was telling me about his instructor, who's 87 years old and still training and doing throws, and and I'm thinking,
another thing you hear
I've been doing this for 15 years. you know, I haven't even scratched the surface yet.
And this
you know,
guy's 87 years old, still training, still throwing people around, probably with the same ease that he had when he was 50.
It's something to look forward to. You know, it's that whole thing of perseverance. You know, when somebody joins a martial arts school, you know, they want to achieve things very fast, but the key thing is perseverance, I think, in the martial arts, and patience.
Which is important, and the patience thing that people don't realize. A lot of kids, they think that they could walk into a school and they're going to get the black belt the next day, or they're going to say, well, I'm going to walk out of there with a move that I'm going to take on every kid with, you know? Obviously, you know that's not true, like I know that's not true, but a lot of people out there think that you know, whatever they learn, they're going to walk right out and be, this is my Superman, I've now put on my cape.
Exactly. What I try to, you know, tell individuals is sometimes to take martial arts and take it out of the context of martial arts training, and let's say put it into law or medicine. I mean, you wouldn't want your doctor to have a mail order degree in surgery while he's operating on you. So I mean, you know, it's the same thing with martial arts training. I really believe that. And you know, the degree level of training is, you know, should be somewhat, you know, a challenge.
And there are mail order black belts out there.
There are, you know, there are.
At every corner,
you know, unfortunately, but you know, that's the case. That's with anything.
That's like anything, any schooling or any art of any form or anything that anybody becomes an organization. There are politics, there is red tape, and there are things that people seem to slip through and they get things a lot quicker than others. But those people know that they really train for it. And and when we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the moves with some help from a couple of your students.
Yes.
And we will go over some of the techniques between takedowns, joint locks, some of the realistic striking maneuvers that you might use in self-defense situations. All right, great. When we come back, we'll take a look at Marco and his students performing some of these moves, and we'll catch you right back here. Yeah! All right. For the demonstration, Marco, along with two of his students, who he will introduce, will go over some of the techniques and moves that he's developed over the years and he has learned. Hopefully, these guys will walk out okay. Just so you guys know at home, like I say every week, please don't try these moves at home. It's important that you seek instruction of some kind before you attempt any of these moves, making sure that you don't hurt yourself or hurt the person you're training with. Okay, so I'm going to let Marco take it from here.
Thank you. Initially, what I want to start out with, in the martial arts, there are many different kinds of fighting techniques. And a lot of times they are more adapted to certain body types. For example, Robert here, who's a little bit taller, he's got long legs. Kicking techniques might favor him in a fighting situation. For example, from here, you can use the lead leg front kicks, roundhouse kicks. Here, he can switch kick, switch roundhouse kick, these type of things. So his legs can become a very effective weapon at that particular fighting range. Okay, next, Dennis here, who's also an instructor at the New Rochelle Boys and Girls Club. He's a little smaller, so he has to focus more on accuracy and speed in his techniques. So we're going to work on, for example, jab, 1-2 punch to the body, switch roundhouse kick. So fake the jab to the face, 1-2, and roundhouse kick. Again, jab, 1-2, switch, and kick. So you can see here how much speed and accuracy plays an essential role in fighting. Okay, and also on the subject here now of various fighting techniques. Techniques are normally broken down into ranges, as you're aware of.
Like the mid-range, short range, long range,
exactly.
And so forth, right.
So it's basically broken down into 4 ranges, okay? You have a kicking range here, you have hand technique range, you have close quarters, which is knee kicks, and then of course you have the basic ground fighting range, which you can follow.
Takedowns and so forth, right.
Absolutely. So, but what I like to usually inform my students of, for example, in the hand fighting range here, it can be broken down into a lot of intermediate ranges, okay? For example, you have the eye gouging here. Then you have a half fist, which can be targeted towards the throat. You have the forefist, okay? You have the wrist technique. You have a forearm shot here. You have the shoulder. So even just within the punching range, hand fighting range, we're looking at already 5 different intermediate ranges within hand fighting.
And these are all practical because they're very quick movements, that's the vital areas, and you're taking the opponent down with basically that one punch deal. Which is to eliminate having to go into a long, drawn-out confrontation.
Or at least distract the opponent and go into some more of the complex techniques.
Or to get out, either way, yeah.
Or to run,
yeah.
because that's really the primary thing. In self-defense, of course, the main factors is awareness and preparedness. That's the first rule of self-defense. As you keep getting closer and closer to a situation, that's where skill level comes in. Okay? Thank you, Robert. Also, to continue on that range aspect, okay, even kicking range, which is delegated as one range, you have the ball of foot, right? Using this part of the foot right here. You have the instep, okay, which is another range. This position here. You have the heel for the side kicks. This position here. So already you're looking at ball, instep, heel, right? And then you have shin. So even within kicking range, we're looking at maybe 4, 5, 6 different intermediate ranges for fighting techniques.
And again, all effective, right? All practical.
All practical. Again, what I want to, getting into the dilemma that instructors face, what can I teach Robert? What can I teach you? What can I teach a student as he walks into school that he can use almost
What's the first thing he'd do? If something happened to him,
right?
Someone came in and said, hey,
Exactly.
I'm going to come and get you or push him or something. What can he do?
Precisely.
Right.
So that's why we learn a lot of the basic stuff, striking techniques, punching techniques, for example, 1-2 punch, punches, again, kicks, kicking techniques, okay, from here. And then as time goes on, you develop the confidence level in these techniques. We work into other areas of fight, right? Robert, Dennis, okay. Getting into the next range, okay, just throw a punching technique here. From here, we have many different ranges now. We're getting inside. Here, close, elbow techniques, knees, right? Takedown. From here, then we can work into ground fighting range, okay, from this position. Now with ground fighting, you have two different options. You can continue striking from this position here, or just move up a little bit, Dennis. You have the option of going into different types of
arm lock,
techniques.
right?
From here, wrist techniques or what have you. Okay, so martial arts training has many different aspects to it. I like to think that karate is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to martial arts training. If we go back maybe 1,000 or 2,000 years, you have the generic term of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu basically means unarmed combat, and that can involve even stick fighting, knife fighting, or what have you. Okay. Also, talking about different ranges, I showed you before. Okay, the sayonage, which is the one-arm throw. Again, Dennis, in this position here, Morote sayonage, which is using
the hip there, right?
Again, you can go into wrist techniques from this position here. Okay, various arm locks. Continue finishing here.
Which is where you combine the jiu-jitsu with the karate together
Exactly.
here. And like you said, the tip of the iceberg was karate. Now you combine it all into one.
Precisely. Trying to bring out the roots of martial arts training.
Exactly.
Now, as far as trying to put the techniques together, okay, anytime we spar, we normally work on what I call 50% power. Okay, Robert, just do some light, low kicks and punches. Okay, so, okay, now follow up also. Okay, so, good. Now from here, we try to learn how to put combinations together.
That was only 50%, remember.
50% power. 50% power. Okay, Dennis, a little bit just low kicks. Okay, ready? I go. Now you notice sometimes I use just my body weight to block the technique. His low kick comes, I'm going to shift my weight forward.
Deflecting it, kind of. Using that deflection there.
Here, or he kicks, I can evade, which leaves him vulnerable.
For your takedown.
Takedowns or what have you.
And do a strike and so
techniques.
forth.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Also, two more factors.
Okay.
You have what's called the sucker punch. You hear that a lot.
Right.
The definition of the sucker punch is that you don't see it. So there's theoretically no defense for it. That's where awareness comes in. You must be aware. Also, headlocks. Okay, we always see headlocks from this position.
The typical
Sometimes it's
headlock.
maybe too late.
People try to sucker punch you up in the head and everything. So I get out of that.
Too late sometimes.
Right.
So awareness is the key. If he goes for a headlock and I'm just aware of a threat, okay, again, I'm ready for it.
You took it out already.
Right.
It's amazing. And the way you described everything here, putting it together, the awareness and the attitude, knowing that, hey, before I get into the confrontation, having to block him out, having to strike him back, I'm going to stop him before he even gets that far.
Exactly.
You know, kind of like do like a little premonition or what's that, like knowing that, you know, ESP there, knowing that something's going to happen and deflecting it.
That's one of the highest levels of martial arts training. Is
That's
trying
great.
to sense what your opponent's doing. And I think that's possible through kata training
Right.
and a lot of sparring or randori in the class.
As you just saw here.
The sensitivity.
Okay, great. So when we come back, we're going to take a look at, actually talk to Marco about some of these ideas and philosophies. Okay? Stay tuned. Great demonstration.
Thank
a
you.
lot of stuff involved
Thanks.
there. It was really impressive. I liked everything that was going on in there, and some of the moves you used, and the techniques were excellent. I'm going to use them. They were great. What's the philosophy behind a lot of this stuff? I mean, obviously.
Well, one of the things that I find is a problem with a lot of instructors as far as like recruiting students is there's a major dilemma. One have to deal with the immediacy of self-defense. A student comes in, he wants to be able to defend himself, next week, if he's coming out of his job
like
or
you said
something
earlier,
like that.
yeah, coming out and learning to move the next day.
It's, so he has to deal with the immediacy of self-defense in a sense, almost assure the student that he will be able to utilize some techniques almost immediately. But at the same time, the instructor has to instill the attitude of 5 years from now or 3 years from now, whatever,
Exactly,
you will be 3 times better or 10 times better. So there's that factor of the immediacy of self-defense and progressing through the martial arts.
And the
over
realism
years.
that those moves won't be instinctive, but it's going to take a little time for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even so much as, you may be able, some people have good physical attributes and may be able to pick something up, but I would like to ensure that person that, hey, you're pretty good now, but imagine what you'll be like 5 years from now. So if you can visualize yourself training and saying, if 5 years from now I should be 5 times better, 10 years from now 10 times better.
That's a great goal to set for yourself.
It is, and really I think that's the most important thing about martial arts training is all those benefits that you read about in the yellow pages, discipline, organizational
Yeah.
skills, those things are great, but those are just benefits. The primary thing is you're training for combat. You're training for self-defense.
Which is the realism of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by doing that, those other things automatically occur. You have to become organized. You have to, set your priorities.
And confident.
Exactly. So it's not just another side benefit of martial arts training. You have combat, self-defense, fighting. These are the primary things you should be focusing on in the dojo.
Right.
And automatically those things fall into place.
That's why it's called a fighting art.
Exactly.
It's a fighting
martial art, warrior way. And I like to think that I'm an example also of how the martial arts can influence other areas of life. Starting a business, starting a mail order business, selling my products, something that I really enjoy doing, and turning it into a business. I mean,
right. And you put these things, and you put these ideas into your tapes that you have now.
Exactly. I try to encourage that in my videotapes, and the whole idea of putting effort into something and really taking a chance, because I feel that I took some chances in life. I was working in the corporate world, and I said, here's something that I really like to do. And martial arts training gave me the spirit and the motivation to stick with it, and also the help of family and
which is
and
what
friends.
you find a lot in your travels of talking to different martial artists, that they have used martial arts to get themselves to overcome other things, get them into other areas.
Absolutely.
I mean, athletes, actors, anybody, these people who've achieved a lot in life, a lot of them have a martial arts background, and it gives them that confidence to say, not only am I confident to fight somebody, but I'm confident to go out and get what I want.
And accept challenges.
Exactly.
I always try to tell my students after a class, especially if it was an intense class, we did a lot of conditioning, I try to say, although it may sound intimidating, I try to say martial arts training should be the hardest thing in your life, because then you'll look at everything else as easy. Like I used to visualize myself when I was coming up through the ranks, I'm fighting my instructor who has maybe 20 more years experience than me, he's beating the crap out of me or whatever. And outside, I think I just fought like this awesome martial artist. Me speaking to a potential employer or something like that, that should have it should intimidate me. Those things shouldn't really affect me. So I think the martial arts training really, more so than maybe a lot of people think, can strongly affect your outside.
It settles
skills.
you down. It calms you down. Like you said,
Absolutely.
you accept other challenges become a lot easier, as opposed to saying, "Oh my God, I got to do this." I'm going to be nervous. You don't. You accept it and say, "Hey, I've been through some pretty hard training.
Exactly.
This is going to be cake."
I always try to say that the dojo, the martial arts school, is is like a microcosm of life. Everything that like occurs, in real life is occurring in some small way in the school. You
Right.
come in, you're dealing with an authority figure, okay? You're dealing with higher students. You're dealing with people that you just joined with, so there's a lot of relationships there, a lot of interaction.
And you're taking on
speaking
responsibilities
skills.
too of helping teach other students when you
Exactly.
get higher. So I mean, you're responsible for someone else's training sometimes.
Exactly.
So
So
you're learning a lot of different things.
you hit it right on the head, because I think through martial arts training, people will develop that sense of responsibility.
And
like,
people
hey,
skills.
Exactly. Maybe I should start taking care of myself. If
Exactly.
I do that, maybe it won't help me in my class next week or something. And that
Exactly,
it
yeah.
starts getting the ball rolling. Absolutely.
And seeing that, and I see it in my students when they rise up, it's a good feeling, because I saw my instructor, and like you, I'm sure you saw yours, and then you finally became an instructor yourself, and now you see yourself in that position, and you're seeing the younger student, you're saying, hey, I was there one time, and it makes you want to teach them more, because you're like, I want them to be better than me, which is probably what you what you want everybody, your students to come to you.
Because by doing that, you actually continue learning.
Exactly.
Because you'll see new things every day.
Just because you're a black belt doesn't mean that your journey ends. That's just the start.
Well, that's why they call it the martial way. There's no
Right.
end. It's not a means to an end. It's just a way, an attitude that you have towards life.
It's like the infinity symbol.
Exactly.
It just keeps going and going.
Exactly.
Which is great. That's why you hear these martial arts. It's so sad when you hear a lot of martial artists and they say, well, I got my black belt, I'm quitting. I don't do it anymore. And they don't realize it's like anything. You got to keep it tuned. You have to keep it fine-tuned and keep it moving and make sure it works, because it's not like you have automatic powers like Superman, I don't have to flex my muscles today, therefore my muscles will be there 10 years from now.
And it's not something that you can maintain either. My instructor always used to use an analogy of a mountain climber. Even staying in the same position requires so much energy.
Exactly,
It's not like you can just stay there and then, take it easy, ride the wave, so to speak.
It's constant concentration.
Just staying in the same spot. If you were to achieve a black belt level, to maintain that level, you still have to do a certain amount of training. If you want to progress, you have to keep doing a little more, a little more, a little more.
You have to work very hard.
Absolutely.
I mean, people don't realize the amount of work you put into martial arts, into getting your black belt. That's why it's so sad that some people out there do get black belts because they were guaranteed it or something like that. But to really earn it, to really get it, is like such an accomplishment. And people
Absolutely.
the
It can be
feeling
the
is
greatest thing.
unbelievable.
It can be the greatest thing in the world. And it's just the beginning.
It is. It is just the beginning. And you and I are still learning. Like you said, everybody's learning. Even all the years, it's like you want to be 87 years old and doing this to somebody.
Absolutely.
You want to be the person that people come visit and say, hey, wow, he's 87 years old and he's still doing karate. And that's what I feel. It's a great deal. Like you said, the martial way. And that's what it is. It's taking that way and making it work. All right, great. Well, we're kind of out of time, as usual, because we have so much to talk about, and you've been a great guest.
great.
We've learned a lot, I'm sure. And like every guest I have, I learn something every day. And even with all my years, I still learn. And what I like to do here is have the people educated by people like yourself.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I don't want to miss a show. I'm checking the cable channels every evening, when's Scott on.
We're going to have you back here then, though.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marco.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thanks for tuning in today, tonight actually, and it's been a great show. We learned a lot from Marco, and hopefully you learned a lot too. So kick back, and we'll see you next time.